I'm Kathy. I'm from City of Tucson Parks and Recreation leisure classes, and I'm going to show you how to work with polymer clay today. We're going to be doing some little critter sculptures. Probably a duck and a turtle, and if we have time, we'll do a teddy bear. Polymer clay is a plastic type clay which you can bake in an oven and it cures. It was invented in the 1930s in Germany for doll makers. They used it for making their doll faces. And people realized it's actually fairly non-toxic, so they started manufacturing it for children to play with. While you can bake it in an oven and while it is non-toxic, it is better to bake it in a dedicated toaster oven rather than an oven that you would then be cooking food with. So you can get it at Michael's, you can get it at Joann's, Hobby Lobby, you can order it online. But it needs to be conditioned first. You can do that in a variety of ways. They have softer and harder forms. If you're working at home, I would recommend using either Sculpey or Soft Fimo because they tend to be much softer and easier to work with. If you get one of the harder, more what they call professional grades, you're going to need to condition it with a pasta maker, which just involves putting it through several times until it softens up. You can also work it with your fingers, especially if you get the softer kinds. So today, we're going to do a little rubber duck, is what we're going to start off with. And this guy I had conditioned first, but this is a brand called Sculpey Souffle, much softer and easier to work with. So it is pretty much already conditioned. So for the duck's body, I'm going to roll it into kind of a circle, kind of a big circle. You could make it small. You can make it large, and then I just sort of smush it a little bit and kind of make it more of an oval. Now I'm pulling up his little tail. So it's going to end up looking like this guy, like a regular old rubber duck. And you just sort of smooth them out. I just use my fingernail. You could use anything you wanted. If you had some actual clay working tools, you could just sort of smooth it all out until you get what looks to be a really good rubber duck base. Now, you're going to take a little round piece of yellow clay. And if you had white, you could do a white rubber duck. And let's see. And he'll sit kind of like right in here. We'll kind of. So you end up with something that looks like this. Now he needs a beak. So I have a little piece of orange that I was working on earlier. Basically, you're going to take a little bit of orange, you're going to roll it around, and then you're going to start smushing it out. You want to sort of smush it into kind of an oval. Then you're going to fold it in half. And it makes a perfect little beak. Now, when you're putting something like a little beak on them, you need to put, this is a little bit of translucent liquid Sculpey. And it will just sort of help glue it in place. You don't have to do that, but it's a lot less likely to kind of fall off if you kind of glued it into place. So now we got a little beak. Now we're going to put his little eyes on. So we just take a little ball of white. Kind of smush it down and use a little bit of the transparent liquid Sculpey to glue it in place. And then it's going to bake in the oven for 10 minutes. 275 for 10 minutes. This little guy has been in the oven, and then when he comes out, you're going to decorate him. You can decorate him with, I will frequently use a bit of acrylic paint. And that's how I can get his little eyeballs. I can just paint straight on. Or you could decorate him with glitter glue, which makes a real pretty little thing. So we could put him, let's give him a great big red heart. You're going to use a toothpick to shape it into a heart. So I pull it down. Pull the sides, so you put a circle, pull the bottom of the circle down, the top of the circle you indent, spread out the sides a little bit, point down on the bottom. So you end up with a little heart shape. So for a turtle, we're going to start. You could use turtle colors. I chose a green. You could choose a dark green, light green. You could do brown if you wanted. You can roll it into a ball. And you can either flatten it with your hand, or you can use a little rolling pin, kind of flatten it out a little. And then along the bottom, you're just going to pinch the bottom out. So almost like it was a pie crust. Now, you want to push up in the front. That's where his head is going to be. So you've got some darker green, or if you had brown, you could do darker brown. Whatever color you choose. You can cut a little bit off. And I'm going to make a teardrop shape. So it's fat on one end, skinny on the other. And that's his little head. Now we're going to take a smaller little piece. And you want a pointy end on it. And that will be his little tail. And then for his legs, roll out a log and cut them all equal. Glue them in place with a little bit of the liquid Sculpey. And now you got a turtle. For a little teddy bear, I'm going to use brown. You could use whatever color you wanted, but I chose brown. This, what I'm using now, is what we call a tissue blade, because I happen to have a very large piece of brown here, so I'm using I have to cut off some. If you're using this at home, you should have an adult helping you. A responsible individual helping you. So I took my conditioned piece and I rolled it into a log. And I'm coming up with a kind of an oval shape. And then I'm going to pick a head. I don't think that's quite right. I think the head needs to be bigger, so I'll add a little more. Stick it on. Now that I've got it there, what I want to do is pull just a little bit of the front out into a snout, because teddy bears have noses. We'll roll a nice log out. So I'm squishing them on the sides. Kind of wrap them around, and then I kind of just flatten them a little bit, turning it upside down. And now we'll just pinch off a little bit more, and we'll make little ears. And you could decorate his nose. Now you have a little teddy bear. At this point, he will go into the oven and bake for 10 minutes at 275.